The Martyr's Reward, Your Path to Forgiveness, was written by Hadassah Hope and edited by Stephen Revere. Hadassah awakened one morning and heard the Holy Spirit speak, "You don't have time to perfect your book." So because of time restraints, understand many of these pictures must be considered preliminary. Hadassah's disclaimer is at the end of the book. Chapter 19. Hadassah is threatened with murder in prison. The following is all true. It's very heavy, nearly unbelievable. Being told someone plans to kill you is a fearful thing. You know from her story thus far, Hadassah is a strong woman in the Lord. Otherwise, you'd think she's off her rocker. These things are so bizarre, you may think she's paranoid. The twists and turns of this story are so intricate, it sounds like a soap opera at times. For simplicity, we'll not give all the wicked details.
There was so much more I won't share because it seems unreal to me even yet. My lifelong hope to do missionary work in Asia sustained me through these awful trials. The Lord again held my hand through another terrible time in my life. I'm going to tell you all I can about it and how He got me through it.
You may be wondering why Hadassah waited until now to tell this story. For one, she had concerns regarding legal matters that might affect her co-workers. Also, she wished to wait until the air cleared a bit to tell her story. The psalmist said, "He is my rock, my fortress, my deliverer. In Him will I trust."
I was hired by a dear friend whom I will call Dr. Foster, a pet hospital owner. He called, insisting he really needed the help of someone he could trust. He suspected treachery among his employees. He hoped I could uncover what appeared to be embezzlement by a group of people who had access to company funds. I was hired as a pet chaplain and receptionist, so I would have access to the total facility. That way I was able to observe all that was going on. Foster was a very caring, kind person who loved the pets and gave 100% of his abilities to the pets, their owners, and employees.
As things progressed and employees were found to be insubordinate, a number were fired. Plots to sabotage the practice were exposed. Alleged plots by a hidden warlock were later exposed as lies.
My responsibilities increased as department heads were let go. Because Dr. Foster had bad experiences with former administrators, he decided to take that position himself. Doc asked me,
"Hadassah, you know an honest person we could hire to do accounts payable?"
"I just happen to have a friend who is experienced in that area, Doc. I trust him. I've known him for years, and I believe he's honest." Doc hired my friend Russell.
The doctor had several relief doctors assisting with the client load. It was each vet's responsibility to have the lab staff document controlled substances given to the pet patients. A lab technician secretly told Doc Foster of a conspiracy among relief vets and a few techs to report him to the DEA for alleged misuse of drugs. By this lying scheme, they hoped to take over the very lucrative practice. Doc Foster called the DEA. An appointment for an agent to visit the pet hospital was arranged. Doc explained to Hadassah the situation. She volunteered then to do the drug audit required by the DEA.
The audit was well underway when the DEA agent personally told me,
"I'm going to hold you responsible for this audit. You know you can go to prison if you don't do it right."
After the DEA agent left, Dr. Foster, my friend Russell, and I had a meeting in Doc's office. In confidence, Russell mentioned he had a friend whom he believed was an undercover FBI agent. Doc asked for contact information for Albert. We thought Albert had an undercover FBI connection. There was no reason to doubt his story, as the DEA was now involved. He was hired as an advisor with the idea he could investigate and help clean house, so to speak.
The so-called FBI agent, Albert, turned out to be a phony and dangerous scoundrel. He was the hidden warlock, He, too, plotted to take over the practice, as we learned later.
This distressed me greatly. There's so much evil I cannot and won't divulge in order to protect the innocent doctor and his practice. At this time, Albert told me,
Hadassah, in a wiretap, I heard Chuck Scoffer plans to kill you with a euthanasia needle. All it takes is for someone to stab you in the back with a syringe. Air injection will stop your heart. Guard your back. You need to guard the doctor's back too.
Jesus is my shield and buckler. In retrospect, this may have been Albert's scheme to make me fearful and encourage me to quit. I would not quit because I was sure God had me there for a reason.
There were innocent employees let go because of Albert's false accusations. Some quit their jobs because of the pervading atmosphere of stress and distrust at the facility. By giving false reports on Doc's most faithful and trusted employees, one by one, he was able to expel them from the practice.
Albert also harshly warned me.
You realize if you don't get this audit done, you go to prison. I know the DEA agent, and I'll be taking this audit over from that agency. I'll take it to the FBI meetings with me as you make progress on it.
Albert convinced me my phone was tapped, that I shouldn't talk to even my family. My personal computer was also allegedly tapped. I discovered later Albert had successfully set my personal computer up to shadow my emails to his computer. He had isolated me, and I didn't even know what he was up to. Doc called me early on a Sunday.
Albert told me some ex-employees plan to break into my office. Get down there right now and take all your audit files to your apartment.
He gave me a list of other critical files to remove as well. When I arrived at the pet hospital, the former workers, whom I knew, were in the parking lot. I immediately wrote down their license number. Because they all were wearing scrubs on a Sunday, where they no longer worked, it obviously confirmed Doc's warning. Of course, they planned to break into the pet hospital because the locks had been changed. It was true. I wonder how Albert knew. Did he really tap their phones? In order to cover up what they were up to, they decided to accuse me. They quickly called the police and filed a false police report against me. They said I was harassing them, but by the grace of God, I arrived there just in time to protect Doc's practice. I still have legal documentation of the false report. My husband, J.D., was with me and witnessed their skullduggery. It was about this time when Albert gave donuts to Russell to take to us. The three of us enjoyed the generous treat, which we discovered later were laced with lead. Our medical doctor confirmed we three had elevated levels of lead in our blood. Russell became very ill, apparently from multiple doses of lead. Russell's son got help from the federal government for Russell's protection. It was obvious someone was trying to kill him. Jesus is our shield and buckler.
The shield of faith stops fiery darts of the enemy from killing us, including darts of witchcraft. Dr. Foster wouldn't let Hadassah tell the employees a drug audit was underway, so she couldn't release any file until the audit was complete on it. But the hospital workers needed access to the pet files. They were angry with Hadassah because they thought she was arbitrarily withholding them. Albert was not a Sherlock. He was a warlock.
My doctor friend turned against me when he believed lies Albert told on me. I was absolutely devastated. Every area of my life was being challenged. It seemed everyone was against me for some reason. No, I was not paranoid. Now I can see I was under satanic attack cleverly orchestrated by a warlock named Albert. Later it was confirmed by others Albert was indeed a warlock. Remember my friend I recommended because I believed in his honesty? Russell, too, was fooled by Albert's lies. He even recommended Albert's agenda to Doc. I saw 2 black limousines in the parking lot. There was no reason they should have been there. I wanted Russell to be aware of it. From the bank across the street, I called the pet hospital. I asked the operator to connect me with Russell's extension. The call was on speakerphone. He was standing by the operator's desk, and I heard him say,
Tell her I'm busy.
I was heartbroken when I realized even my friend was belittling me to fellow employees. No, I'm not paranoid. All these things really happened as I've told them. I've changed only names, locations, and insignificant details to protect the innocent. Instead of coming into the business to support and respect me, my good trusted friend Russell turned on me. He not only dishonored me, but he used his position to turn others against me. I was crushed. My friend took the opportunity to advance himself at my expense. Have you ever had someone project their weakness on you to make themselves look better?
How did Hadassah get through it all? Why didn't she quit? Why didn't she go to the authorities?
I knew in my heart I was assigned by God to assist this doctor to save his practice. I cherished Dr. Foster's friendship, and I thought Albert was a real government agent who would help catch the embezzlers. As family called, they didn't understand why I couldn't tell them what was going on. I said firmly, "Don't ask me any questions." Still the questions came. I told one of them my phone was tapped.
That's ridiculous, Hadassah. It's impossible for your phone to be tapped.
She continued with more questions. I said, "I'm afraid for my life. I can't talk to you." I hung up. My family was very angry with me. They thought I was just being unnecessarily rude. It seemed to me they were not at all sensitive to the real danger I was in. Afterward, all I could do was to forgive those who'd hurt me in some way. I knew the ordeal I'd gone through must have a higher purpose. It was to somehow prepare me to be stronger in my faith and to affirm even more the need to practice forgiveness. The DEA agent called.
What are your findings, Hadassah?
I gave him my progress report and findings. Drugs had been documented in the PETS files, but not entered in the drug log.
That's good. As far as I'm concerned, you're finished with the audit.
The audit had been tedious and demanding. It took nearly a year of my life. I was so relieved to be released, even though the audit was not totally complete. Doc wouldn't believe me because Warlock Albert insisted it was not finished. It was as if Albert had control of Doc's mind. Albert approached me.
Hadassah, let's go to your office.
He closed the door behind us and said firmly in a stern voice,
You've got 24 hours to finish this, or you're going to prison. I'm serious. You're going to prison if you don't finish it.
I felt as if all my life just drained out of me. I was on the edge of an emotional collapse, but God sustained me. It was at this point Doc compelled me to stay in his house until Albert was satisfied I'd finished the audit. I was not even allowed to make a phone call to check on JD's condition. He was crippled by a stroke and under home health care.
If Doc believed Hadassah was released from the audit, there would be no need to keep Albert on the payroll. Obviously, he wanted to continue getting his exorbitant fees while furthering his evil plot to steal the company.
Naturally, Doc was relieved when I finished the drug audit late that night at his family's home. He insisted I not drive home, so I slept on the couch. Later, Doc acknowledged my efforts to save the practice. He honored me at a company dinner and amply compensated me for my time and effort. Of course, there was no way he could pay me for the horrible anguish I'd suffered.
Later, the Lord put former employees in Hadassah's path. One meeting was obviously by, quote, divine appointment. That person had never been to that establishment before. She arrived just as Hadassah got there. Hadassah later told each former employee what really happened during that time of turmoil. They too have now been able to forgive. Would Hadassah now be rejected by her family?
Believing my phone was tapped, I was concerned about all the harsh words spoken over that problem. I feared when I went to a memorial service for a family member, I'd experience further rejection. I was also concerned what Russell may have spoken against me, as he was closely tied to my family. But in fact, I received a special note of love and a gift I'll cherish for the rest of my life. It was a special "I love you" from Eunice. She had gone on to heaven when I received it. God knows how to turn what Satan meant for evil into something good. He can even turn an enemy into a friend. If I had harbored unforgiveness, anger, and bitterness in my heart, I would never have been able to tell this story or go to minister in the Philippines. It was another trial over which to triumph. It would help me take the next step forward to my destiny, plan, and purpose the Lord has for my life. Yes, it did take a few months to get over the trauma and heal from the wounds. But the Lord proved again He is faithful.
He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. When we believe Psalm 91, we have the promise of being sheltered by the Most High, and the Almighty covers us with His shadow. He is our refuge and fortress, and our trust is in Him. He will save us from the fowler's snare, that is, those who set traps and plotted against us. Wonderfully, He will guard us against the deadly pestilence. Believers don't have to be afraid in the night. It might look like you're going down, but don't fear, because if you're walking upright with the Lord, He will send angels on your behalf. Thousands may fall around you, but harm will not come near you. You will see it turn around. With all the deception at the pet hospital, Hadassah was taken in by the deceiver. Even so, she was protected by the Lord. He will lift us out of the pit and put us on higher ground. Remember, though she suffered greatly, Hadassah survived to be honored, because she finished the task given her. When we love the Lord, He will protect us and rescue us, because we've acknowledged and honored the name of the Lord. She had nowhere else to go but to the garden of prayer. By now, Hadassah's husband, J.D., was quite ill. He couldn't help her. Some of her good friends had deserted her. Her church friendships were affected as lying gossip was spread about her. Her family relationships were blocked by unfounded slander that was nonetheless effective. But because her faith and trust was in the Lord, and because she had gone through such trauma years before, she had become a strong woman. Satan's plans to destroy her did not work.
The agony of Mom's murder helped prepare me for this trauma. Although God allowed Satan to put great suffering on me, after my testing, I looked forward to great joy. The Lord was preparing me for ministry ahead. I gave a 60-day notice before I left to minister in the Philippines. Warlock Albert even threatened to block my passport with another satanic lie. Satan used his little servant to try to stop the work God had for me. At the end of my employment, my responsibility was to do payroll, make deposits, do file audits, and help with training of new employees. I trained 4 people to take my place as department heads. I am sharing my story for one purpose only. It might encourage you, listener, should you have to go through such a trial, to know God is faithful. This story doesn't end here. There was much to forgive, and even wicked Albert has been forgiven. J.D., Russell, and I prayed for his salvation. Wow! How great it would be if God would turn this one around. Remember Saul in the Bible, Acts chapter 9? God turned him 180 degrees to become the great Apostle Paul. You know, my experience tells me pets really do see and sense things in the spiritual realm. Jesus died to save mankind, but He didn't forget His animals.